This might be the best camera on a phone in 2024. This is the Xiaomi 14 Ultra. In today's video, I just wanted to talk about the camera and video capabilities of the Xiaomi 14 Ultra. If you want to know about this phone a little bit more in depth and just overall review of the phone, you can find that in the top right corner of the screen. But today, let's just focus on the cameras of this phone, their capabilities in photo and video department. Xiaomi 14 Ultra has a quad camera setup. Essentially, we have four 50 megapixel camera sensors, and the main one being a 1-inch sensor. You can see that it's a rather big camera bump, but there is a reason to it. We have an ultra wide angle lens, which is a 50 megapixel. Then we have the 1-inch sensor, which is just incredible for photography and actually has variable aperture, meaning you can change the aperture while taking the photos, and that one is also a 50 megapixel. And then we have the telephoto, which is a ×3 zoom, and that is another 50 megapixel sensor. And then we have the periscope lens, which is a 5x zoom, and that is also a 50 megapixel sensor. But the best thing about it is the three sensors that are not the main sensor are the same exact sensor, meaning the consistency is amazing between all the cameras on this phone. No matter which one you use for photos or video, it's gonna look great. I feel like Xiaomi and Leica really outdone themselves with this phone, and I've made plenty of photos with the cameras on this phone that just don't feel like they are from a phone. They don't look like a traditional phone photo. For example, the 1-inch sensor on the main camera sensor, if you take a photo from an arm's length, you're gonna have background blur. As you can see, you have background blur all around because the focus is on my hand. That is what you get with the 1-inch sensor on the main camera. So if I take a photo of something in my hand, it looks like it was taken on a camera, a proper camera, because the background is really nicely, naturally blurred because of the size of the sensor. So it's not something that is done artificially in post-production. And you actually can do it in post-production with the portrait modes on this phone, but the portrait modes are incredibly well done. You don't see the artifacts of the artificial cutting out of the person, and the bokeh effect is really nicely done. It doesn't feel artificial in a way that it just flows to be a little bit more depending on how far something is. The thing is, I feel like one of the sensors on the bottom is a LiDAR scanner, and from some things I've read, it might be truth. And that would mean that is how it can actually understand what is in focus and what is in the background. And after the photo is taken in the portrait mode, you can actually change the intensity of the background blur, or even what is in focus and what is not. In terms of photos, it just overall is a pleasure to use. The wide angle lens takes great photos. It just makes it not normal phone wide angle lens, which isn't as good. It's really nice in terms of contrast, sharpness, thanks to the 50 megapixel sensor. The main camera being the 1-inch is just incredible in all its glory. Like, it's literally an incredible piece of camera in a smartphone. You can really take photos that are just don't look like they were taken on a phone. And then we have the telephoto, which is another one that is really nice, and it doesn't feel like a traditional phone camera because of the way it compresses the background, and being a really nice sensor with nice optics just makes everything look really nice. And the 75mm equivalent, that is where the faces and everything look really good. So that is really good for something like a portrait. And then we have the ×5 zoom, which is something like a 120mm equivalent. And just having that big of a zoom is going to compress the background, but also just add that background blur, once again making it look a little bit more cinematic, a little bit more professional. And in this phone, you can actually take photos in the pro modes, meaning you can take every photo the way you want it to and make it your own. Also, you have two different modes. You have the Leica Authentic and Leica Vibrant. The Leica Authentic is a little bit more toned down and just feels a little bit more natural. Sometimes it adds a little bit more dramatic effect, and I feel like it's perfect for low light situations when you don't want the colors to be oversaturated. While the Leica Vibrant is a little bit more vibrant, as the name suggests, the colors pop a little bit more, and there is no significant vignetting that you see on the Authentic mode, which can be a benefit if you want that effect, but if you don't want that, the Leica Vibrant doesn't have it. And the photos just pop a little bit more. They're like a social media ready photo. And on this phone, you can actually shoot in JPEG and RAW. So if you want to add them in post-production, you have that capability on this phone. Also, because the sensors are so good and the 1-inch sensor is pretty big for a phone, they perform extremely well in low light situations across all of the different cameras. And that consistency goes to the video too. You can shoot in 4K 60 frames per second in all of the different camera sensors, and you can on the fly change it while recording, which is just incredible, going from an ultra wide angle lens to a 120mm equivalent and zooming in and showing what is somewhere out there. It's really cool, really nice that they have it, and it just makes everything seamless. And because it's once again the same sensor in both photos and videos, everything just is consistent. And one thing I didn't mention, it can actually record up to 8K in 30 frames per second or in 4K 120 frames per second on the main camera. So if you're into that kind of stuff, it can actually deliver that too. And the videos on this device look really nice. You can also record in 4K 60 frames per second in a log, meaning you can actually edit that in post-production, but it's limited only to the main camera sensor. And speaking of the main camera sensor, you can also change the aperture while taking the videos, meaning that you can change the shutter speed to a more cinematic feeling one. For example, when shooting in 60 frames per second, you can change it to 120 shutter speed thanks to the variable aperture, meaning that you can close up or open up the eye of that sensor. You can also shoot in the master cinema mode in 10-bit, which is great if you want to edit in post-production, but also you can shoot in movie mode with added benefits of the background blur, but it isn't as perfect in that mode. Another great feature of this phone for both photos and videos, you can take macro photography, but not in just, the wide angle lens as usually on the phones. You can actually take it on the telephoto lens, meaning that it actually looks like the way it should be. If you were to take macro photography on a big camera like the Sony a7 IV that you're watching from, you would probably get something like a 75mm that would make it look natural. It wouldn't be, an ultra wide angle lens, and make this subject be the way it should be in real world. So that is why this phone is incredible for macro photography. And also there is still autofocus in that mode. So macro photography is just incredible in this smartphone, and I really like how it's made. Essentially, I feel like this phone has a full complete package that pretty much anyone that takes this phone is gonna be happy with the photos. It's incredible. I've seen comments that said that this is actually a camera that just happens to have a phone in it, and I would say it's pretty accurate. You can even take moonshots with the periscope lens, but that is not something that is perfectly done. It could have been better, it would need a little bit more of a zoom, but it's capable to do that if you like that too. Overall, I'm super happy with this Xiaomi 14 Ultra. As someone that makes cinematic videos, travel videos, and overall wants a nice camera in their phone, this is definitely the way to go. This is how the phones really can push the boundaries of mobile photography. And that is why I feel like this is the best camera of 2024 on a mobile smartphone. And I want to see how that can be improved in the next iterations and how it stacks up to the competition moving into 2025. If you have any more questions about this smartphone, let me know in the comment section down below. With that being said, that is going to be the end of today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I hope you guys enjoyed this video once again, and I'll see you next time.